Good morning to you and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this lovely Thursday morning. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us for our Bible talk for today, and I hope you're finding these talks helpful. Don't forget, by the way, to share or like them at the bottom of the screen, then other people can enjoy them too. Well, friends, for the last few days we've been looking at 1 and 2 Thessalonians, books I didn't know very well at all, but I know them much better now, so thank you for giving me the privilege of doing that. I hope you found those helpful. Today we move on to a new series on the Gospel of John, and we're going to pick it up at John chapter 11. There are 24 chapters, I think it is, in John. We're going to pick it up about halfway through. We did the first half a few months ago. Just to kind of remind you, really, Thessalonians are books that I don't know very well at all, but I know better now. John's Gospel is something most Christians would know pretty well. And so we're going to pick it up at John chapter 11. To set the scene, Jesus has been doing all sorts of amazing miracles. In John's Gospel, he doesn't call them miracles, he calls them signs, because they point to something. So far, he's turned water into wine. I wish I could do that. He's healed a paralyzed man by the pool. He's healed a man that was born blind. He's fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and various other things. But everyone would say that this one in John chapter 11, this one is the big one, the story, the famous story of Jesus and the raising of Lazarus. Now, it's quite a long chapter, so I'm going to do it in 3 sections. I'm going to do John chapter 11, I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to read verses 1 to 16, so here goes. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with her perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Lazarus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it's for God's glory, so the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you, and are you going to go there again?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble, because they see the light of the world. But those who walk at night stumble, because the light is not in them." After saying this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to waken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he will be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's go also, that we may die with him." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, I've said many I've said many times before that with the Bible, don't just hear it with your head, but feel it with your heart as well. And this morning's reading really is kind of high drama. Jesus has been Bethany is right next door to Jerusalem. It's in the Judean area, and Jesus is elsewhere because last time he was in Jerusalem, they tried to stone him. So understandably, he's elsewhere. Anyway, then you get these 2 sisters, Martha and Mary, and their brother Lazarus, and Lazarus gets more and more ill. And in the end, Martha and Mary are so worried about their brother, they go and find him away from them and say, "Look, our brother Lazarus is really, really ill." And it's interesting high drama here because, as you can imagine, the disciples were none too plussed about the idea of going back, because last time they went there, they tried to stone Jesus. And Martha and Mary must have known the dangers that were involved. But they were obviously so out of their wits with worry about their brother Lazarus that they try and get Jesus back to try and heal him before they do. And there's even a bit of kind of emotional, the one whom you love is ill. I think there's a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of manipulation going on here as well. Almost the one that you love so much, he's ill, come on, do something. So kind of feel the drama of that. Jesus has gone away because it's dangerous in Judea, but they're so worried about their brother they need him to come back despite the danger, despite the fact he's busy. They're so worried about their brother, they try and get him to come back. And then in an interesting twist, of course, you'd have thought, Jesus, 999 ambulance service, 10 minutes, whatever it would be. Absolutely not. It's quite clear that the Bible says here that even though he loved Martha and Mary, he stayed where he was for a couple of days. We'll come up by that in a minute. But eventually, after a couple of days, Jesus says, there's a bit of byplay about, whether he's really ill or not. And then whether he's really dead or not. and then eventually, after a couple of days, Jesus says, let's go. And this lovely bit of twist at the end from good old Thomas. Let's go so we can die with him. So they're very fully aware of the dangers that they are undertaking, going back to Bethany, to Judea again, despite the danger. So why did Jesus not go straight away? Why did Jesus not, 999 bells, get to Lazarus before he died? Why did Jesus not get on his fastest donkey and get by wherever he was and get back there as quick as he can? Well, as I said to you earlier, this, of all the signs that Jesus did, obviously before his death, of course, this one is the greatest. And Jesus is very clear here that it kind of had to happen. He knew what they didn't know, but we know, because we've got the rest of the Bible, that Lazarus would die, but Jesus would bring him alive again. Jesus knew the end of the story. We know the end of the story because we've got the Bible in front of us, but the people there didn't, which is why they couldn't see it. But because Jesus knew what was coming, Jesus knew that Lazarus had to die. And why is this so important? Why is it such a big miracle? Why is it, did I say earlier on, that this is the big one of all the miracles? Because Jesus did some pretty amazing things, casting out demons and healing people. And in this one, this is the big one. Because in this one, Jesus showed that he had power over death. He demonstrated his power over the weather. He demonstrated his power over water into wine and everything else. He'd fed 5,000 people in the desert, things that only God can do, and all that type of stuff. But this one is the big one, because in this, by raising Lazarus from the dead, Jesus demonstrated that he has power over death, that he is the resurrection and the life. In him is true life. So in this miracle, in this sign that Jesus did, which we know about the raising of Lazarus, Jesus knew that it was going to be the beginning. He was going to demonstrate his power over death by raising Lazarus from the dead. But of course, for him to demonstrate that he got power over death, Lazarus had to die first, which is why Jesus didn't come straight away. Second thing, by doing this, by raising Lazarus from the dead and by demonstrating his power over death, this was going to be a massive boost to their faith. If you'd actually witnessed someone who had been dead come alive again, it would be something that you might think about, something you might remember, a kind of big instance, something you might write to the Express and Star about. Who knows? But it's certainly something you put it down as a very memorable event. And so by raising Lazarus from the dead, it was acting as a massive increase, a faith boost, you might say, to Martha and Mary, Lazarus, no doubt, and everybody else there too. So firstly, you've got Jesus demonstrating his power over death by raising Lazarus. Secondly, this would be a massive boost to the faith of Martha and Mary, Lazarus, and everyone watching. But in both cases, as I say, Lazarus had to die in order for Jesus to bring him to life again, and for God to be glorified, which is why Jesus didn't go straight away. But the other reason this miracle, this sign that Jesus did, is so important is, of course, it helps us look forward. It prefigures, if you like, what Jesus was about to do a few days later. In his conquest, in his defeat of death in Lazarus, he was showing that he would one day defeat death himself. The difference being, of course, in Lazarus's case, Lazarus died, came back alive again, and would eventually one day die again. There will be a tomb for Lazarus somewhere. Lazarus was brought back alive, he will die again one day. When Jesus died on the cross, rose again on Easter Sunday, he lived and remains alive to this day. But nonetheless, in showing his demonstration of his power here in raising Lazarus, it was pointing us forward, if you like. It was giving us a foretaste of what Jesus was himself going to do a few days later by dying on the cross himself and rising again. Not in order to die again like Lazarus would have done one day, but in his case, to remain alive, to reign victorious, to reign supreme as our friend in heaven forever. So, why did Jesus not come running when he heard that Lazarus was ill? Because Lazarus had to die in order that Lazarus could be raised. And that had to happen to demonstrate Jesus' power over death, to boost the faith of those watching, but also to demonstrate what he and prefigure what he himself was about to do on the cross in a few days' time after that. I hope that makes sense.